Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
It's time for another daily dose of dismal Disney. We're gonna talk about Gina Carano, and apparently she's opening up about what happened with her firing.
Yes, well, there's the lawsuits. That's probably partly why.
Yeah, so she's gonna open up more about what went down with Lucasfilm, and we're gonna go through this article on the Hollywood Reporter.
I'm surprised the Hollywood Reporter ran with it.
I am too, because they pretty much tried to excommunicate her from Hollywood.
Well, I don't know if it was them specifically, but like Hollywood journalists.
Just Hollywood journalists would not talk to her. They're like, oh, well, of course that Nazi's working with Ben Shapiro. Like, did you just hear the words that came out of your mouth? Yeah. So, we're going to talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, you get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
So you're going to have to walk me through this one. I did not read the article. You read the article.
Yeah, it's talking about the lawsuit and her side of the story, what happened with Disney. Now, those that are unfamiliar, Gina Carano was on The Mandalorian. She played Cara Dune. It was a very popular character. At one point in time, people were demanding that she put pronouns in her bio. She did not want to do that because she didn't feel comfortable with it. Then she was harassed incessantly, which we're going to look at that in a bit, until she wrote boop bop beep, or she put in her whatever, how she wrote it. And then they had a hissy about that, and there was campaigns to cancel her. There's hashtags to cancel her. I mean, no one's surprised that there was a concerted effort to cancel her. That we talked about this many times. She got fired, and now she's suing Disney with the help of Elon Musk because it's cost her a lot of jobs and a lot of problems. Yeah.
Because, I mean, that was the thing. It wasn't just that they fired her. It was that they actually disparaged her.
Right. That's it. She was abhorrent, they said.
Yeah, because, I mean, we did another video today talking about Bo DeMeo. And they might have actually learned something from that, because they said that Disney said officially they just parted ways with him. If Disney had said they just parted ways with Gina Carano but did not go into specifics as to why, they probably would have been in the clear. But they're like, no, she made some abhorrent statements on social media and we don't agree with her. And so that right there, when you've got an official Disney account saying it, you've made her unemployable.
Well, she also talks about how she refused to conform to the basically the rhetoric and the political stuff they wanted her to conform to. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because we saw many times with the Star Wars account that they were like, oh, you know, this actress is getting harassed. This actress is getting, you know, it's racism. And how dare you, in calling out the fans when they question a character. But when she was harassed, and we're going to look at that in a bit, I mean, for months, they said nothing. They did nothing to help her. And then they didn't come out, you know, from behind their diversity, you know, shield until they thought they had to learn her on something that she did. And we're gonna look at that in the article. So before we get into it any further.
Before we get into it, please give us a sub. You'll get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo.
I'm not used to you running things.
I know, I'm in charge.
She's in charge. She's not feeling very well. So.
I'm not feeling very well, but I'm doing my best. So this article was from the Hollywood Reporter, and they talked to her about what happened. And I'm going to scroll down past all this stuff because this is just them talking about other things and where she came from. But they're saying about, you know, the Fire Gina Carano hashtag.
Yes.
And things like that, which there was a concerted effort. I mean, I can tell you, and we saw the same thing with the She-Ra stuff and all that. There are Discords, there are places on Instagram, there are different groups, and they get together. We saw this with Captain Marvel, trying to vote it up. And they get together and they decide they're gonna get something done, and they all coordinate in lockstep. They've been doing it forever. And it's not just that. We have, you know, I'm sure people, in my opinion, at Lucasfilm were involved with this. And I want to point out again, a bunch of people at Lucasfilm who were talking shit also did not have pronouns in their bios.
Yeah.
Just point that out. So it was crap. She's talking about how, you know, when she found out, she wasn't even told. It was a matter of being put up on social media. She said when the Black Lives Matter thing happened, you know, she put a black square up at first until she saw the violence and the summer of love, as my mom calls it. And she saw all the peaceful protests that became, you know, looting and violent. And she was like, no, I took it down because, you know, what the heck? And they're talking about how they tried to reach out to Favreau and he didn't say anything. But she said that the company placed an emphasis, or this is what they said, the company placed an emphasis on liberal values and inclusivity And she felt unfairly targeted and bullied both by the public and her work peers. So she protected herself and fight for herself because that's what she usually does.
Well,
and then,
yeah, she's an MMA fighter.
Right.
You know?
And when she got fired was when she basically put up that tweet that was kind of like the one that was at the Holocaust Museum, where it's basically people weren't just... Jewish people weren't just killed in the Holocaust. You know, they basically made the neighbors turn against them first so they could be drug out and taken away. And no one thought anything of it because they basically, you know, dehumanized them to a point where everybody was fine with it. And that's basically what she's worried about with the political rhetoric in the country, where everybody's hating on each other because of their political leanings. And that's on both sides. One side more than the other, but it's definitely on both sides.
Yeah, you basically dehumanize your adversary, so it's, you know, it is easier for the powers that be to control, because they don't have enough manpower to actually do it themselves, so they have to rely on the citizens to police other citizens.
But they teach you to do that.
Yes.
Because, you know, it's
knock
that,
on
it's
your
like,
neighbor. I mean, we saw it during the pandemic.
Crime.
We saw it during the pandemic big time. It was like everybody was narking on everybody else, and it was like, what the frick?
Right. And that's basically what, and she's not wrong. And it's funny, ironically, I've brought before, Susan Sarandon said something similar not long after, and it was fine when she said it. Pedro Pascal made comments and, you know, about Trump supporters, and we're going to talk about that later, and that was fine. And after it happened, here's what they said. She said she learned about her termination with a post. Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. But that's not what she did.
Right. So if they had left that last sentence out, now I don't know who wrote that tweet, but if they had just left that last sentence out and just said, hey, she's not working for Lucasfilm currently and she's not going to, and left it at that, they probably would have been fine. But saying what they said, that her tweets were abhorrent, and they basically, and she lost everything. She lost her agent. She lost her, I saw her law firm. That's what did the damage. If they had just parted ways because of irreconcilable differences or creative differences, or even just said, hey, we have no plans to bring Cara Dune back for whatever reason. Right. We're just not going to write her into the show.
That's what they had to do, but they didn't. They had to take it too far. And then she said, because what happened, then you become unhireable. It becomes okay for other people to disrespect you. And then you're just carrying on this disrespect. You're showing all the shame, and it affects you physically, and affects your physicality and your mentality. You're kind of hopeless. So to be able to fight back, it makes me feel like, okay, that feels good, talking about Elon Musk helping her fight Disney, because what they did, and then they made her like unhireable with their comments, and they're talking about her, you know, where she came from. But interestingly enough, when they did this this part in this movie, it was written for her specifically, because I guess Favreau called her up and wanted her to come in. And she was the first actor they were meeting on the project, and she thought he was going to make her like a Wookiee or something. Yeah. But they went through the characters, and he brought up Cara Dune, and then, you know, he's like, this is what we want you to be. And then they had her meet with Kathleen Kennedy, which is funny. I love the way she words this. She doesn't say anything bad. She's like, the woman has done a lot of incredible things in her life. I remember she has had a facial, and her face was red and peeling, but it didn't bother her. She never took her eyes off me. And then she told Kennedy how grateful she was to be considered, because, you know, the godmother had to sign off. And then I love this. I've been around enough alphas where I don't need to out alpha anyone. So basically, she knew she couldn't, if she did that to Kennedy, Kennedy would be threatened. And from there, I believe she gave him the okay. So she joined. And then she was worried that she was going to get treated like other actors like Ridley and Boyega and Kelly Marie Tran. But it didn't work out that way. People loved Cara Dune.
Well, okay. Actually, I want to step.
Yes.
No, they didn't at first.
No. Most people did. It was just that, no. What happened was most people liked her. And then somebody did a parody article saying that she's too strong woman and all this shit. And then we had Anthony come down and be like, run with it, not knowing it was a joke. And then saying about, well, those Star Wars fans are mad because she's a strong woman. And it's like, I've said from the beginning, girl was like, it was like the one character that was like, yes, finally a strong female character that isn't a Mary Sue. I was like, hallelujah, it's a good character.
There were, I mean, I'm going to be honest, there actually were some people when she first showed up that were afraid that it was going to go exactly like, oh,
but
of course, we've got this strong woman, she's muscle bound, she's probably, you know, whatever, and There were people that were saying it, but then I think after a couple episodes, people realized like, oh, no, she's actually a pretty good character.
But what happened was, because, you know, the character is a strong female character. People like latched onto it, the same mentally ill people that usually latch onto this stuff. And of course, that means that you have to be their representation, even if you aren't. And they got mad because she wouldn't put pronouns on her bio. All right. And then they talk about other things like that she took the black square down, and she didn't, she doesn't think that enforced mandates were okay, which, a lot of people agree or disagree.
I still don't think they are. And I'll say it. I don't care. It's safe to say it now. And I've said it even when it wasn't safe to say it, but whatever. But the thing is that, she actually, if you listen to her interview she had with Ben Shapiro, she really wasn't that political. She basically got kind of pushed into being more political because of just the way things were going.
Well,
like you had to pick a side. And it was stupid.
Disney put her in that position, for one. And two, these people, they think that you're a character that represents them. And then they're like that you are the representation. So the actor has to be the representation too. Even though nothing in the character ever was stated to be representative of them, they take it that way, that they adopt it as theirs. She talks about what she mentioned before, that she had to do that re-education camp with the people at the meeting, and they wanted to send her to the Lucasfilm group with 45 people shitting all over, and she didn't do it. They go on about that stuff, which we talked about before too. But I guess she had talked to Pedro Pascal about and she said, I talked to Pedro about it and why he does it. And he basically told her to put hashtag trans rights in your feed and they'll leave you alone. Okay. He was telling her just to do that. And she goes, she didn't do it because she goes, I don't hashtag anything. She goes, I don't care if it's a Trump thing. I wasn't gonna put it in there. Yeah. And she goes, we were close. It was 1,000% on the homophobic or transphobic. And they're talking about how he still talked to her after Carl Weathers died and stuff. And they're still on good terms. But what's interesting, I'm going to show you now what was going on. So they fired Gina Carano. Now, this is the stuff that happened at the time. They said she refused to put pronouns in her bio because she's a phobic person. She said, yes, Pedro and I spoke, and he helped me understand why people are putting them in their bios. I didn't know before, but I do now. I won't be putting them in my bio, but good for all of you who choose to. I stand against bullying, especially the most vulnerable, and freedom to choose 100%. So she still took their side, but wouldn't put pronouns in her bio. But that's not enough for these people. No. Same types of people who basically called Zoe Saldana all kinds of slang, racist terms when she wouldn't say Chris Pratt was an asshole.
And what it is, there again, you talked about the coordination on Discord. It really isn't that many people, but they know, and they've learned this from, I think, K-pop stans.
Well, it's bots too. It's bots. It's been for years.
It's accounts that are, it could have been people within Lucasfilm.
I honestly think that a lot of it came from people from Lucasfilm. Because that's my opinion. I do believe that.
And I'm like, are they not paying attention to what's going? Because I never would have put a statement out there throwing her under the bus like that. You say you parted ways, or hey, yeah, she's not currently working with Lucasfilm.
Especially when they defended everybody else.
Yes,
but they were the right kind of person. They were on the left. They weren't white. They could hide behind their ideology bullshit. And then because she wouldn't put pronouns in her bio. If she was getting harassed because she put pronouns in her bio, they would have put a statement out defending her.
Oh, yeah.
This is bullshit. But basically, this is Data Racer covered this stuff on Twitter.
Oh, he's been on this stuff for like
a
years.
Long time.
Yeah.
And I had this put up from when we did the story back when it happened. And these are the different things. These are just a snippet of the stuff that she got. And it went on for weeks. Block me before you I stamp on your self-entitled transphobic COVID-loving head, stinky lady. You're not the victim here.
Stinky lady.
You're not the victim here, you transphobic hag. When are you Disney? And they kept tagging, fire Gina Carano. When are you going to fire Gina Carano for being openly transphobic and passive-aggressive racist? She's a transphobic piece of trash. Again, here's what she said. I understand why. I'm not putting in my bio, but good for you who do. I stand against bullying, and I'm with you 100%.
That's not good enough.
Nope. You had to put it in, or you're they're not a good actor now. They're transphobe too. You transphobic piece of shit. And this is just a snippet. Like, this went on for weeks at her until then she put the boop bop beep in her thing, and she said it had nothing to do with that. It was about something else, but I think she said it was about the roboticness of these responses. Well,
yeah, and she was right in that regard, because a lot of them are bots or sock puppets. It's interesting though, they were tagging Robert Iger at Robert Iger in, and saying, hey, I thought your company was LGBTQIA plus friendly. I'm like, yeah, it's the same Bob Iger who greenlights Pixar movies and then they cut the gay parts out for overseas markets.
I know, right?
You know?
But at the time this happened, here was their bios. No pronouns.
Yeah.
Giancarlo Esposito, no pronouns. John Favreau, no pronouns. Justina Ireland, who's one of the people that was working on the books, no pronouns.
Yeah.
Katie Sackhoff, no pronouns. This is Christina Ariel, was one of the ones who had made racist comments before, but they defended her about being racist.
She was on the High Republic show.
No pronouns.
No pronouns.
That goes on and on. Dave Flint, no pronouns. Pablo Hidalgo, no pronouns. Now they fired her because because of the pronoun issue, supposedly. But none of these people, Taika Waititi, no pronouns. None of them else have pronouns. Then also, Pedro Pascal, he took it down. I'm sure he was told to, but he didn't have to have re-education when he put this up. Losers in 1865, the Confederate flag. Losers in 1945, the Nazi flag. And losers in 2020, the MAGA hat.
Yeah.
That's obviously was equating people who voted for Trump with Nazis and Confederates. And he didn't, and this is on Instagram, but he took it down, but they didn't do a thing.
No. And that's the thing. Like, I can see if you have a strict, like, hey, as long as you're working for us, and they have like morality clauses or political clauses or whatever. They do have those in different contracts. If the company policy is like, as long as you're working for us, do not make overly political remarks on social media, that is a condition of your employment, then it has to be evenly enforced.
That's it. They're not evenly enforcing it.
So it wasn't that. It was somebody was ass mad that she was saying.
It was a targeted attack on her specifically because they decided she was the representation. The character was representation. Yep. Nothing was said that the character was representation, but they decided the character was representation. I'm
going to be honest. I think because she's built, and a lot of people probably were like, oh, she's coded either queer or trans or something because she's.
But never said that.
No, they never said. But I do remember some of the initial backlash that people had was like, oh, is this character going to
I also noticed that the hair on the character, they put the braid on the side to make it look like it was half shaved, but with a braid.
Yes.
So yeah, they were like,
she was
it's
coded.
Basically, they said she was a soldier, and she was, and she was a really good one, and she had a history, and I love the fact that when they did the show, she wasn't better than the Mandalorian, but she wasn't like underneath them. That they were like the old shows where they're on equal footing, and they were like working together because they were a team, not because one is elevated to lower the other one and vice versa. And I remember I just really liked Cara Dune, and I remember the end of the season, the two where they had they were trying to take the bridge, and then you realize after they take the bridge, oh, it was all women because he didn't even think about it because it wasn't made a point like that's a point. Did I mention it's all women? Did I mention it?
Didn't have to do the slow-mo.
Right.
Like, oh, let's appreciate this moment. All these women on the bridge of the ship in Star Wars. Yeah.
And I like that. I thought that was female characters done correctly. And then we can't have that because if we have a good female character, a strong female character, it clearly means it's representation.
So I'm sitting here thinking like, well, how come, when Sailor Moon does it in the late 1980s, you don't have a slow-mo shot of the Sailor Scouts all walking toward the camera. Yeah. Just appreciate these 5 women kicking ass together.
I'm just saying it was stupid. And I was, but then them coming after her, demanding that she put pronouns in her bio. When there's a bunch of other people on the shows and Mandalorian and working at Lucasfilm, they didn't have to put pronouns in their bio and they weren't fired for it. She took harassment for weeks. Disney said nothing. Christina Ariel gets a couple days of it and they're putting up posts. Moses Ingram, because people said they were questioning the character, and then we had to post about all the fans being racist tool bags. But then when they're going after Gina Carano for something so ridiculous, they said nothing and instead made her go to retraining because she put boop bop beep after she'd been harassed for months and no one would help her. Not that she needs help, but you know what I'm saying. She said, 4 years later, her career's in tatters. She can't believe it all began with something as meaningless as droid sounds. And she asked incredulously, seriously? This was the start of the end for me, a 20-year career, the blood, the sweat, and tears of fighting? I never compromised myself for a job. I never ended in a bad situation where I did anything inappropriate. I had a clean and clear climb to where I got to and was going to just keep going. And boop, bop, beep was that harmful?
Yeah.
Because a couple ass-mad little bitches on Twitter, and then they harassed and they campaign because she wasn't controllable by the narrative and the people in Disney California.
anybody that was associated with her. They started that is really when they started going after Henry Cavill, because he dated her like 10 years before she was in Star Wars. And they started going after him. They start, well, he plays with those Warhammer minis, and he supports gamers. He might be a Nazi too.
Well, then she blames the media too, which kind of ties in what you're saying.
Yeah, the media is the big.
It became popular to hate on me and pick on me.
Yeah.
Things got worse after the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The Hollywood press and major news outlets coupled me into this extreme right-wing thing that I'm not. She says.
Well, okay, so, not to bring it around to Gamergate 2.0, but when we have people that are further right that are known for being political talking heads getting involved in this stuff that they've never played video games in their freaking lives, and all of a sudden they're getting involved, weighing in on the stuff going on in video games right now, they're basically giving ammo to these journos to do hit pieces on actual gamers.
Right.
And people with very mild opinions.
Well, like she's talking about the Holocaust meme, which is what got her fired. And I totally understand her thought process on it. She's like, before the Nazis were as powerful as they became, you had to make it okay to hate the person next to you. And that's how we get to a dangerous place. And history does repeat itself. And then she says such comparison. Then the Anti-Defamation League said that her comparisons are not indications of anti-Semitic, whatever. But here's the thing. She wasn't wrong. She was completely right. That is how it happened. That's historically accurate. I'm sorry if you don't like hearing it because it makes you feel bad. These are the same people who don't want to learn about the Holocaust because it makes them feel bad.
It makes them feel bad.
It is an issue, and the media, I think, perpetuates it. The media perpetuates it, and it is a problem. It really, truly is, and nothing she said was wrong, and it wasn't wrong when Susan Sarandon said it either.
Yeah. So
they're talking about all this shit, and it goes on about what she's dealing with, and she's going to do this lawsuit. To talk about the lawsuit, she said, I'm not perfect. You won't find a perfect person, me, but you will find a person who has been doing her absolute best under one of the most aggressive, unnecessary cancellations in Hollywood history. She's completely right.
Yes.
This has been one of the toughest growth spurts of her life, and I don't plan on wasting what I've learned. She's completely correct. It was months of harassment until she just put boop, bop, beep. And then that led to, it just went all downhill from there. The harassment was just shit.
Remember when the journalists were all like, "Oh my God, the toxic fans are harassing women out of Star Wars."
Mm-hmm. Then they did the same thing.
They did the exact same thing.
They tried it. Zoe Saldana also. If there are a number that would make you happy with the lawsuit, she goes, I know this might sound odd, but I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about clearing my name. I'm thinking about finally being healthier and having this monkey off my back and telling my story and just getting on with my life. Finally. She's like, it's not even about money. It's just about the fact that I want my name cleared and I want to move on and not be like blacklisted because of the shit that Lucasfilm did. That again, I'm going to remind you, all these people from Lucasfilm and from Star Wars movies and Bob Iger himself, no pronouns were in their bio at the time. Not a fucking pronoun to be seen.
Yeah. I mean, this is very much like Johnny Depp, where for him, because he's already got gobs of money, right? It wasn't about the money. It was about the fact that he wanted to be able to show his face in public again. He wanted to be able to work again. And they had, and again, Disney, they were one of the first companies to toss him overboard, and now that his name is cleared, they're all like, they were trying to come around, and he said, yeah, you don't have enough, was it 1,000 alpacas or something?
Yeah, but he might go back, who knows? Oh, here's the comment she made that was, Jews are beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children, because history is edited. Most people today don't realize that. To get to a point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it right now. How is it any different from hating someone for their political views?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sorry, that wasn't wrong. And she took shit for months, comments for months about pronouns in her bio, when the people at Lucasfilm don't have pronouns in their bio, or at least didn't at the time.
Yeah, and somebody had an axe to grind with her. They want her gone. They coordinated an attack.
Because it's because these ass mad, mentally ill people decide that you're the representation, not understanding that the actor and the character are not the same thing. And then when you don't do what they want, even if you're very polite, even if you're supportive, you don't do what they want because they're telling you to, then you're the enemy.
I think that she actually is. Well, I'll tell you what, with Elon Musk getting involved in her lawsuit, I think she actually is going to win it because they're going to have access to all the Twitter data.
If they can use that, though, because some of it they might not be allowed to use.
I don't know, because they might be able to say, hey, they were trying to manipulate, or they could make a pretty good case that you know, the people that were on here before, the users that were on here before knew how to manipulate the algorithm.
They've been for years.
Yes.
This is not new. We keep telling you guys, they've been doing this. I know as long as I've been doing Disney stuff, this shit has been going down.
Yep.
They ramped it up to umpteenth power with this kind of stuff. But the bots and the you know, the attacks that were coordinated, they have been going on for years.
Yeah, they need to do something on Discord, because there are entire Discords that exist just to coordinate harassment campaigns. You know, and it does. It's like catnip for mentally ill people. I mean, it really is. They're like, oh yeah, I have a purpose. This makes me angry irrationally angry for whatever reason. I've got all this free time, so let's.
But it's not just them. The journalists, that a lot of them, you know, are in the same groups. And the same groups. They're on Slack coordinating. They're on Discords coordinating. Why do you think in lockstep, as soon as the Sweet Baby Ink stuff happened, here they come, it's Gamergate 2.0.
Yeah.
Which I want to remind everyone, we told you was coming for quite a while now. Before everybody else started saying about it, we've been saying it.
They were trying with Hogwarts. They were trying with Hogwarts.
Oh, they tried, but they were bringing the movies out.
Yes.
We've been saying it since the movies. That's what they were moving.
Freddy's, they were trying with Scott Cawthon.
Since this stuff started, we've been telling you this is what they're trying for. And they've been trying and trying and trying, and they're all working together to try to make it happen because they desperately need the views. Yep. So they do work together. They most definitely coordinate attacks on people because, you know, they're pissed, their friends are pissed, and, you know, the celebrity didn't do what they wanted. The company didn't do what they wanted. So they're going to do coordinated attacks. And they really love to attack fans.
Oh, yeah.
And especially if they think you're a Republican. So there you go. I mean, this one had so many layers to it. It's you know, it gives Shrek's Onion a run for its money.
There you go. That's the competition. Are we gonna wrap this up?
Yes.
All right. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.
Bye.